Hello there, friends. It's time for the Fantasy Maverick podcast, and we are talking about week 2 starts and sits. And we're going to break it down differently this week. We're going to talk about which games are the low-scoring games that are going to be bad for fantasy, which games are going to be the blowouts, which are going to be great for one team and terrible for the other. And then we're going to talk about the ones that are fantasy gold mines, man. Lots of points scored on both sides. There are some great matchups this week. I'm super excited about it. So here we go.
Listen up. It's time for the Fantasy Maverick podcast, starring the guy who's going to help you win that fantasy championship, Jimmy Maverick.
Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast, coming at you from Santa Fe, New Mexico. And today we are going to talk about the starts and sits for week 2. Got a lot of games to go over, so we'll get right to that. But before we do, hey, if you could do me a favor and please give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment, share this with your friends, and of course subscribe. All those things really help me out on the YouTube algorithm, and so I very much appreciate it. So thank you very much for doing that. Now, before we get into the starts and sits, I want to talk a little bit about week 1 because my week 1 went very well. I ended up going 5-1. And really, there was one game that I lost that I should have won, and there's one game that I won that I should have lost. So regardless of either way, it was a good weekend for me. My top scoring team, what I do is I'm running 6 leagues this season. That's all I could do. I'm like that's how I'm maxing out. So I'm doing 6. I'm doing 3 of the FFPC tournament, three leagues there, and then I do my standard points league, my PPR league, and then my custom points league. So those are friends leagues I've been involved with for a while. They are all money leagues, so I do have stakes in all these things. First of all, the importance of a good draft really makes a difference here, man. So obviously, had good drafts, went 5-1. The team that lost was one of my FFPC teams, scoring 148 points, and I lost. So that was tough. I'm currently ranked 8th on the board, but 6th in points. But the thing is, this team, this is the team I consider my strongest team. And when you look at how this team did, I scored 148 points without any of my running backs or wide receivers or flexes scoring a touchdown. So I kind of see 148 points as my floor on this team, which is damn good. And the bench is nice and deep. I got at least 3 or 4 startable players on the bench for this team as well. So it's in extremely good shape. I'm not at all worried about it being in 8th place right now. I do expect to move up. My other teams in the FFPC, I got one that I scored 170 points. I'm ranked 2nd. One that scored 154 points. I'm ranked 4th. So those all went very well. My PPR league scored 149 points. I'm ranked 1st. My standard points league, this is the one I should have lost. I scored 102 points, so I'm currently ranked 6th. I am the lowest scoring team with a winning record, but I was lucky enough to play the guy that somehow managed to start Aaron Rodgers, Robert Tonyan, and Ronald Jones on week 1. So I just kind of lucked out by literally like 2 points. He had Tyson Williams on Monday night, who immediately came out and scored like 15 points. I was only up by 18, and then Tyson didn't do anything after the first half, and so like I said, I won by like less than 2. But I'm happy that I got the win. And then I also have my custom points league where I scored 174 points, and I'm currently ranked 1st. Again, position of strength. This is why you need to have a good draft. Because going into week 2, here's currently my projections. In every 5 of 6 leagues, I'm currently ranked 1st in points. 1st of all the teams. 4 points this week. And in the other one, I'm actually projected 3rd in points, but really I'm like less than half a point behind the guy who's 2nd. So again, very, very rock solid, top to bottom. And this is why I developed my app. This is why I created my Perfect Fantasy Draft, is to help you draft teams like this, to find the value, to find the best player in each round of your draft. And I'm happy. I am so happy that it worked so well this year. Last year was a different animal. It was a harder year, but I think that's just because other teams were scoring so many points. But I managed to avoid most of the landmines that have happened this year. Like Raheem Mostert, he ranked horribly on my app, just terrible at the absolute bottom of the list for whatever round he was going in. And so I didn't take him. I have no shares. And so it didn't matter that he only lasted 2 plays and then he's out for half the season. So, this app is really designed to help you avoid those risky players. He was a high-risk player that never should have been selected, and so I don't have him, and I'm happy that I don't. But anyway, next year, 2022, my perfect fantasy draft is going to be even better than it is this year. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that. And when it goes live next June, I'm telling you what, man, it's going to make a huge difference in your fantasy teams. So let's talk about week 2. Now I'm going to do this in a little bit of a different format. Usually I just go through the games one by one and we talk about them. But I want to just divide them into 3 types of games. There's going to be low-scoring games with limited fantasy value. There's going to be blowouts, which are going to be great for one team and terrible for the other. And then there's going to be those fantasy gold teams, those teams that it's just going to be a high-scoring, high fantasy points affair, like the Dallas-Tampa Bay game. That's a perfect example of the kind of games that are fantasy gold mines. But let's start with the low-scoring games. And these are the games, again, if I can avoid starting players on any of these games, I will. If you don't have a choice, play your guy. But there are 4 is it 4 games? I think it's 4 games. Yeah, 4 games to qualify. So the first one is the Thursday night game. New York Giants at Washington. This game is going to suck. On one hand, you got a great Washington defense that held the Chargers to 20 points. Now they get the Giants at home, Giants without a healthy Saquon Barkley, with a still recovering Kenny Golladay, with a turnover-prone Daniel Jones. They are not going to score a lot of points. Likewise, on the flip side, with Washington, they lost their quarterback. They lost Ryan Fitzpatrick for at least like the next 6 weeks or so. So there's no Fitzpatrick, so that's going to limit the fantasy upside of all the fantasy players on that side of the ball. So I got to say, man, I'm just not seeing a lot of good fantasy options here. Like I said, there are some players you're not going to be able to sit, right? Antonio Gibson, you can't sit. Terry McLaurin, you can't sit him. Go ahead and play him. But just don't expect a whole lot out of them. They could have a very disappointing game, and we saw a lot of players have disappointing games last week. I think this is definitely a recipe for both these teams. The next one is the Patriots at the Jets. Now, normally this would be a blowout. In normal circumstances, no contest, man. The Patriots will just absolutely score at will. I don't see that happening, man. I don't think they're that kind of a team. They don't have any sort of elite wide receiver options to really open up the offense. They do have a decent running game, which they tend to rely on, and they got a rookie quarterback. And the Jets aren't much better. Rookie quarterback, no really good offensive options, although Corey Davis is probably a start here. But in a backfield you don't even want to touch. There's not many options here. You might be able to get flex value out of Nelson Aguilar or Corey Davis, and then Damian Harris looks like he's the only start here, as the Jets gave up almost 100 yards to CMC last week. But Damian Harris isn't CMC. He's not as good as CMC. But other than that, man, you can't really start anybody on these teams. Also on Sunday morning, there is the Bills at the Dolphins. Look at this. The NFC East is just not great for fantasy right now. You got the Bills at the Dolphins, and of course the Bills are a great offense, but they really got stymied by Pittsburgh last week. And now they got to face another really excellent defense in the Dolphins that, of course, held New England to only 16 points last week. So I do anticipate this is going to be a better game for Stephon Diggs and for Josh Allen. Of course, I would start those guys, no problem. I also think Cole Beasley is a good start here, giving you some flex value there. But the Bills' backfield, don't even want to bother with it. I'm not sure you want to start Myles on the Dolphins side. Myles Gaskin, I mean, when you saw how the Bills just totally stopped Najee Harris cold, I don't know how you would expect Myles Gaskin to do better. Najee Harris was held to like 33 yards or something pathetic like that. Myles Gaskin would definitely be a sit for me. I do think you could start Waddle or Fuller in your flex if you need to do that. But I'm really not interested in any of the other Dolphins at this time for fantasy. So that's the next low-scoring game. We also have the Saints at the Panthers, which, again, does not look like a high-scoring affair. Of course, you are not going to sit Christian McCaffrey. You're not going to sit DJ Moore. But I would stay away from anyone else. I mean, I'm very nervous about Robbie Anderson, who only got one target. Of course, he got the touchdown, which makes him look okay, but that was very distressing. The Saints defense just basically completely dismantled an elite Green Bay offense. I mean, they shut them completely down. There was nothing going on. Aaron Rodgers got benched. He got benched in his worst performance of his professional career. So, I'm kind of scared of the Saints defense. So that's why I'm not real interested in starting any any Panthers players this week. Now, on the other side, as far as the Saints offense is concerned, it looks good on paper because it looks good on the fantasy results because Jameis Winston got 5 touchdowns, but he got 5 touchdowns on 14 passes. And so that you want to talk about a risk of touchdown regression unless he kicks up that passing volume, which I don't really see him doing because they don't really have any good passing options. Of course, Alvin Kamara, absolutely start him. He's absolutely good to go. But I can't think of anyone else on the Saints that I want to start right now. I'm just relegate him to your bench for now. We got to wait for Michael Thomas to get back before we start to see any real offensive air power on the Saints. And so, again, that's what I would do with that. So there's only a couple of starts in that game. Finally, on Sunday afternoon, you got the Raiders at the Steelers. Raiders coming off that big overtime win, which was very exciting. But now they've got to face the Steelers defense that completely shut down Josh Allen. And Josh Allen and that offense, I think we all can agree, is way, way better than the Las Vegas offense. And so I do not anticipate a lot of points being scored. Of course, Darren Waller is a start. You got to start him. I think he's totally fine. But then on the Steelers side, you got some real question marks here, man. Can you trust Najee? I mean, obviously with the draft capital you put into that guy, I think you got to start him this week. He should do better than what happened against Buffalo, but I'm not sure how much better. Obviously, the Ravens were able to pretty much move the ball at will on the Raiders on the ground. But of course, I don't think the Steelers have the rushing prowess that the Ravens do. So, I'm going to start Najee. I'm not going to be happy about it. And, I think you're okay with starting like Deontay Johnson, just based on the volume he's going to get. But I think Chase Claypool, I think Juju Smith-Schuster are both very risky this week. Again, who are you really going to trust on this offense until we see Ben really put together a good game and really prove that he can, command the offense like he used to? And that's the big question mark we had with the Steelers coming into the season is does Roethlisberger still have it? I'm not sure he still does. So those are all the low-scoring games. So these are the ones, if you can stay away from starting players on these games, I think you're going to be in good shape. But next up, these are the fun ones, man, at least on one side. It's fun for one side, and that's the blowouts. So you want all the players on one side. You don't want any of the players on the other side. So let's start with the Sunday early games. We got the Jaguars at the Broncos. Jaguars making the Houston Texans look like a good team. They are not. And now they're going to make the Broncos offense look like Super Bowl champions. So I am loving everybody on the Broncos right now. Melvin Gordon, Noah Fant, Cortland Sutton, all starts. I think you can start Teddy Bridgewater as a flat, if you're streaming the quarterback position. I think he is a good choice this week. Remember how good they made Tyrod Taylor looked last week. They're going to make Bridgewater look fantastic. So absolutely a great game for all these Broncos, plus the Broncos defense. I've already got the Broncos defense on several of my leagues. I took them specifically because of their first 3 games, so this is number 2. Should be an excellent, productive game for the Denver defense. Now, on the flip side, right? On the flip side of the Jags, this is probably going to be another high passing volume game. So I think, you should be able to start the pass catchers, DJ Chark, Latavius Murray, Melvin Gordon. I think that you could start them in your flex, and I think that they will probably do fine just based on the volume. But I want nothing to do with the ground game. I don't think the ground game is going to do anything. James Robinson and Carlos Hyde, sit them. Don't play them. They are not going to be good for you this week. And don't forget how the Broncos shut down the Giants' run game, but that's because Saquon Barkley only played like 10 carries or something like that. But it's not going to be good for the Jags. So sit all the Jags you can. If you have another alternative, I would take that. We also have the Rams at the Colts. The Colts were only able to score 16 on a Seattle defense, which we know is not as good as that Los Angeles defense. So, I think outside of Jonathan Taylor, you can't start anybody on the Colts this week. I would not start anybody. It's just not going to be worth it. There's not enough volume in that offense to give anyone outside of Jonathan Taylor some fantasy productive value. On the Rams side, though, if you got Cooper Kupp, it's gonna be good. You saw what Tyler Lockett did, right? 4 catches for 100 yards, and I think he got 2 touchdowns. Yeah, I can see Cooper Kupp doing that this weekend. So, yes to Cooper Kupp. Yes to Matthew Stafford. Yes to Robert Woods. Yes to Darrell Henderson. Yes to Tyler Higbee. Yes, all of them. Start them all. It's going to be a good game for them. They are going to be super productive. I'm very excited about Stafford. I was when they brought in Stafford and they were projecting his stats out, they were projecting his stats out just like if he was Jared Goff preseason. And I'm like, that's not correct. That is not right. He is going to be a step up and above from what Goff was ever able to do. Just based on the offensive scheme and the talent around him, he's going to be great. Stafford is awesome. I can't wait to see what he does this weekend. So that's going to be a great game. Fun game if you're a Rams fan. We also have the Texans at the Browns. Wow, Texans, they might be this year's Jags. You win your first game, and then you lose the next 15. I think this is the start of that. Playing the Browns at the Browns, again, the only Houston player I would start is Brandon Cooks, just based on the passing volume. I don't think you can trust anybody else. You can't trust that backfield. Excuse me. On the Browns side, expect the Browns to bounce back after that disappointing loss where they just kind of fell apart at the end, which was disappointing. But you know what? It was the Chiefs, okay? The best offense. You can't leave the door open like that at the end of the game with that team. But as far as the Browns go, man, I'm really only comfortable starting the running backs. Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, yes, absolutely. But the passing game, I can't trust it, man. OBJ's not healthy. Jarvis Landry got 4 targets last week. What was it? No, 5 targets. He got 5 targets last week. So I can't trust any of the receivers or the tight ends. I would sit him if you can. But, like I said, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are going to have a huge game. It's going to be a great game for them. On Sunday afternoon, you got the Falcons at the Bucks. Oh, jeez. In one of my leagues, I got Yang Shoku as my kicker, and I'm thinking I got to drop him. I think I got to pick someone else up. I don't want to go into that game. Are they even going to score 3? I mean, this just seems like they scored 6 against Philly. Okay, so this is my shutout projection of the week. Shutout is going to be the Bucks are going to shut out the Falcons. You absolutely can't start Mike Davis just because of that rush defense on Tampa Bay's side is smothering, and it just he's not going to get a damn thing done. It could get really ugly really fast. The only Falcon I would start is Godwin, maybe Pitts. Obviously, both of them should get enough volume that and plus the draft capital you have in both those guys, you got to start them. But that's it. And then on the Bucs side, don't start any of the running backs. Do not trust that backfield. It could be anyone. Watch Giovanni Bernard have a monster game. That's what it's going to be in that backfield. You're never going to have clarity. It's never going to be the same guy twice in a row. So that's where I'm at with that. But the Bucs receivers, yes, and yes. Tom Brady, yes. Mike Evans, yes. Antonio Brown, yes. Chris Godwin, yes, absolutely. Start them all. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Did I say... Wait a minute. I got messed up here. Hold on one second. I can't believe I did that. Okay, so on the Falcons side, I said to start Godwin. That was not correct. It's Ridley. You start Ridley, you can start Pitts, but that's it on that side. And then on the other side, it's Godwin and Evans and Brown and Brady. No problems. You're going to have a big game. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention here, Gronk. Start Gronk. He's got a... Damn, he is so good, and he is Brady's favorite target in the end zone. So start him. I've got no problem starting Gronk. If you already have a tight end, I'd start two tight ends. If one of them is Gronk and the other one, let's say you got one of the elites, right? Let's say you got Waller or Kittle or Kelsey. Yeah, I mean, this week you absolutely want to do it. So it's going to be a great game for the Bucs. A lot of points. Terrible for the Falcons. Monday Night Football. The Lions at the Packers. It's a get-right game for the Green Bay. They're at home. They're going to have to show that last week was just a fluke, just a one and done, and that they are going to come out and make a statement against this Lions team. The Lions were very feisty last week, put up a very spirited game against the 49ers. But do not expect that to happen again. The only players I would start on the Lions would be Hawkinson and Swift. That's it. Those are the only players I could trust to start. But the Green Bay players, Rodgers, Jones, Adams, Tanyan, I think they're all good to go this week. They're going to have a big week. They got to save face for what they did last week. That was embarrassing. So we've talked about the blowouts, and we have talked about the low-scoring affairs. Now we got the good games, the fantasy gold games, and I've got 6. And so these are the kind of games where you start as many players as you can on these teams, because there's going to be a lot of fantasy points scored. First one, Sunday early, 49ers at the Eagles. On the 49ers side, Debo's a start. Elijah Mitchell is a start. But right now, I would sit Trey Sermon and I would sit Brandon Ayuk. You can't trust them until we see them on the field. I got to see what their role is on this offense. It could be all Trey Sermon this week. I mean, that's a distinct possibility. But after last week, after he was a no-go last second, you can't trust. You can't trust what's going on in that backfield. It's going to be a problem all year, so keep him on your bench and wait to see what happens. On the Eagles side, man, Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, Dallas Goedert, Devonta Smith, I think all of them are good to go. It should be a really good game. The 49ers gave up a ton of passing volume to the receivers, so that's why I really like Miles Sanders. I am not ready to start. Why am I drawing a blank on his name? The second wide receiver, the rookie. You know who I'm talking about. Don't start that guy. I don't think you can trust him yet with the volume. It wasn't enough volume last week. He's a very, very risky play. I'd keep him on your bench. But otherwise, those other guys should be great. On Sunday afternoon, we've got the Bengals at the Bears. This looks very interesting to me. And we haven't heard anything about what's going to go on with who's going to be the starting quarterback in Chicago. I assume it's going to be Andy Dalton again. But this looks like a great game for fantasy. A lot of good options on both sides. I would like it better if Justin Fields started, but if Andy Dalton starts, it's fine. You don't want to start him for fantasy, though. Don't even bother with him. But David Montgomery, Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, I think are all good to go on that side. And on the Bengals side, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, Joe Burrow, I think they're all good for this weekend. So this should be an exciting game, a high-scoring affair. I really like it. We also have the Vikings at the Cardinals. Now, this one is the highest risk game of the week, I think, because you saw how the Cardinals completely dismantled Tannehill and the Titans last week. And I see the Vikings as very similar in structure and talent. And so this could turn very badly for the Vikings. If the Cardinals are dominant this week like they were last week, I got to tell you what, I'm picking up the Cardinals defense because I think we've got a sneaky, awesome defense. Chandler Jones with his 5 sacks, that's fantasy awesome, right? I'm not ready to do that yet. I mean, this Vikings are a good team with really good offensive assets. So, we will see what happens. But you're not going to sit Dalvin Cook. You're not going to sit Justin Jefferson. You're not going to sit Adam Thielen. Play them. They are good. On the Cardinals side, man, all the key players, Murray, Hopkins, Edmonds. I would sit James Conner and Rondale Moore as I don't see enough volume for either of those players to make them fantasy relevant. But the other guys I think are good to go. This should be a good game. I'm hoping it's a good game and not like a crushing blowout. But we'll see. We'll see what the Cardinals do this week. Next up, we have the Titans at the Seahawks. Now, the Titans looking to bounce back strongly against what happened last week against Arizona. And so, obviously, you have to start Henry. You have to start A.J. Brown. You have to start Julio Jones, and you hope they have a better week. I'm not sure I can trust Tannehill right now. So if you have another option, like if it was between, Tannehill or why am I drawing a blank? Oh, jeez. It's one of those days, right? Teddy Bridgewater, right? If it's between Tannehill and Bridgewater, shoot, I think I'd start Bridgewater. That's where I'm at. I really want to see how Tannehill responds and how he comes back this week before I be comfortable putting him back in my lineup. On the Seahawks side, man, they're all stars, man. It's going to be great. Wilson, Metcalf, Lockett, Carson, start them all. They're all going to be good. It's going to be a good game for them. We have another, man, this is probably going to be the game of the week, man. This is going to be yet another edition of what last week's Thursday night game was, but it involves the Cowboys again. Cowboys at the Chargers. Oh, it's going to be so good. There's so much fantasy on this game. I'm very excited about what's going to happen here. The Cowboys, start Prescott, start Lamb, start Cooper, start Zeke. And Zeke's going to be fine. Coming back, the Chargers' run defense isn't anything like Tampa Bay's. So, he's going to be good. Chargers, I like them all. Herbert, Allen, Eckler, Mike Williams, big points, big game. That's going to be like, this is the game I'm waiting for. I got tons of Herbert this year. Somehow I ended up with Herbert on like three or four of my leagues. I think at least 3 of them. And man, I'm feeling really like a lot of pressure that Herbert really has to come through this year. So we'll see what happens. Finally, we've got the Chiefs at the Ravens. This is the Sunday night game. Again, of course, you start your Chiefs. You start Mahomes. You start Kelsey. You start Hill. No questions there. I'm not sure you can start anybody else on that team. McCole Hardman's volume, once again, just nothing. 3 targets. That's it. You cannot trust that. You can't start that. On the Ravens side, man, I love Tyson Williams. And I love, obviously, Lamar Jackson. You're never going to sit Lamar Jackson. But the Chiefs gave up 5.9 yards per carry last week. So that portends very good for Tyson and for, and for Jackson. Latavius Murray is also not sure I'm really super comfortable with starting him yet. He looked really good last week, though, coming in very cold on this team. He just joined him a week ago. Looked good in the second half. Did get the touchdown. He's not going to get the volume that Tyson's going to get, so he's a riskier play. But I think if you want to put him in your flex, I'm like, you know what? go ahead and put him in your flex. I think you'll be okay. Also, I'm thinking that Hollywood Brown is a guy that also might have some flex value. He only got 6 targets last week, but dude, did he do a lot with those 6 targets. He caught all 6 of them, first of all. So it's kind of a low volume play. Not sure I really want to start that yet. I'd rather just keep him on the bench. If I have a better option, I'm going to start it ahead of Hollywood Brown. But if you don't, I'm okay with putting him in your flex. I think he's going to be fine. So should be a great game, a fun game, a lot of points scored, and the Ravens maybe going 0-2. That's weird. That's unexpected. So those are it. That's it, man. Those are the games. Let me know what you think of this format. Do you like this format better where I break it out by the types of games, or do you want me to do you like it if I just go through each game of the week and we just talk about each team? I kind of like this better because it gets all the bad games together and the good games together. So anyway, let me know. All right. And if you want to talk about any of these players or any other players, leave a comment down below. Thank you very much for watching. Good luck in week 2. I'm hoping that it is just as good for me as week 1 was. We'll see how it goes. I'll talk to you next week. Have yourself a great fantasy day.